listening to The Lead Like No Other Podcast, episode 83. We are certainly living in unprecedented times right now. And I believe so much of how we will be able to navigate this is going to be around our mindset and really the questions that we ask ourselves in terms of how that's going to happen. And my guest today really is the perfect guest to be able to have this discussion. His name is Noah St. John. He's known as the Power Habits Mentor and is famous for helping entrepreneurs get rid of their head trash and make more money. He's the only author in history to have works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mindvalley, Nightingale-Conant, and the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher. He also appears frequently in the news worldwide, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Parade Magazine, Entrepreneur.com, and the Huffington Post. And in the show notes, you'll also be able to get his book, which is Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money, for free at www.freeheadtrashbook.com. And again, those will be in the show notes. And again, the conversation that I had with him, I think, aside from his book, really is about mindset and how important that is. Again, I'm Patrick V, and you're listening to The Lead Like No Other Podcast, where I'm not only obsessed with interviewing those whose actions are inspiring others to do great things, but also in uncovering the research that demonstrates that we all have the ability to lead like no other. And it starts with ourselves. So let's get into it. Noah, listen, I want to thank you again for being on the Lead Like No Other podcast. It is such an honor. As I mentioned in the intro, with all of your success in so many different areas, but as well, being a former Mainer, there is that holds a special connection to me, right? Still being up here. I'm suffering through the winter. You've seemed to find a way out of here from that standpoint.
Yeah, well, I did manage to escape, and it's been quite a journey, I'll tell you. But yeah, I mean, like we were talking about, off camera here. I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. I grew up in Kennebunkport, Maine, which many of your listeners might know is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. But my family was dirt poor, and I mean that literally, because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure. So, you hear speakers get on stage all the time, right? And they say, well, we were poor, but we were happy. We didn't know we were poor. Well, in my house, we freaking knew we were poor because my mother reminded us every day that we were poor and miserable. So
that's great.
It wasn't happy. It sucked, And so the point is, I hated that life of poverty and fear and lack and not enoughness. That's all I knew in my family growing up. But literally right down the street, I saw that there was great wealth and abundance. So, you hear all the time, speakers say, well, the secret to success is hard work. Well, my parents worked really hard and they never got ahead. So I'm like, well, that's not it either. What the heck is going on here? So, look, I'm basically, the people who know me, my coaching clients and my audiences, when people come to my live events, they basically say that I'm the nerdiest nerd in the industry. And I say that proudly because what I mean is when there's a problem, when there's something that I just don't understand, when I want to fix something, I just have to get down to like the molecular level. I got to fix it, If I don't understand something, I'll just keep working until I get it. And so, from a very young age, I hated that life of poverty. And so I didn't have anyone to talk to, of course, nobody in my family could help me. So I did the only thing that a nerd would do, which is I went to the library and just started reading books on self-help, personal growth, Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Stephen Covey, all the classics, right? And I really tried to put them to work, worked really, really hard, but son of a gun, I couldn't get them to work. And so, after many years of trying and not really seeing the success I wanted, at the age of 25, I made a decision to take my own life. I made a decision to commit suicide. And, I do share that story in my books and in my programs, but, basically at the very last minute, my life was spared. I didn't know why, but I made a decision at that moment to devote the rest of my life to serving God and serving humanity as best I could while I was still here on the earth. The only problem was I still didn't know I was here on the earth. So, that's when I went on another long journey. This one more of a spiritual journey, like an inner journey. The first one was like to try to get success on the outside, and that didn't really work. So I went on an inner journey, and I started reading books I went back to the library, started reading more books on spiritual growth, like Neil Donald Walsh, Louise Hay, Ernest Holmes, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, the spiritual teachers of our time. Well, anyway, long story short, in 1997, I had two epiphanies that really changed my life and led me to finally realize why I'm here on the earth. And that's what led me to start my company, launched my company, successclinic.com, in my college dorm room with $800 and a book on how to do HTML. So I literally have one of the original personal and business growth websites on the internet. And I've been here doing this for over 2 decades now. And in that 2 decades, what's really amazing is that we've helped our coaching clients and our students literally add over $2.7 billion in sales. What I mean by that is we've helped, entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives, athletes, working moms, real estate people, people in the health profession, to literally add 6, 7, and yes, even 8 figures to their business, using my methods. So it's really been quite a journey, but it definitely started from very humble beginnings.
Yeah. The part that you mentioned about attempting suicide, you're one of more than a handful of guests that I've had on this show that have all said the same thing. At some point in their life, they were at the brink of committing suicide. And I think about that now in terms of what all those people would have missed out on if you had been successful at that attempt. And to me, it's an inspiration to people as well that are in that space now. And that's what we talked about before we started this was, to me, I think we live in a world at times where, right, everything is so clean and nice, and Instagrams and Facebooks, and
it's Photoshopped is what you're trying to say.
And they don't see all of the work and struggle that went in behind this, that you were able to get past to make it to this point, which I think is so important, right?
Yes.
For people to be able to see. You provide inspiration for so many people to do that. And with that said, I mean, it would be interesting to hear, you've written numerous books, but as we talk about your most recent one that's being talked about so much right now is around, get rid of your head trash about money.
Yes.
What was it that inspired you to write this book?
Well, really, I've written 15 books pretty much about the same topic. It's all about what I call your head trash, right? So your head trash is the voice in your head that says, I can't do it because ... And then you fill in the blank. So, for everyone listening and everybody watching this program, think about what you want, right? What is it that you want? We, at my company and, with our coaching clients, we call it your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? So like maybe you want to start a business, maybe you want to grow your business, scale your business, maybe go from 10,000 a month to 50 or 100,000 a month. Maybe you want to hire new employees. Maybe you want to lose weight. Maybe you want to find love. It's not just about money, but it's, whatever it is in your life. So that's like your destination, right? Your goal, right? This is what I want. And again, as I stated, it's not just money, it's your whole life. So you think about that thing that you want, right? And we all do this. But then the very next thought for 99% of humanity is, but I can't do it because,
totally.
Right? And then whatever, this is so key, what I want folks to understand, everybody listening, is whatever you say after the word because is what you are going to make true for you. You're going to literally fight to the death to defend whatever happens after the word because, even if you don't want it. So we humans are basically nuts. We're basically insane because you're like, well, no, I have coaching clients that go, well, no, I want to grow my business. I want to double or triple my business like like your coaching clients do. Because when you go to our website, you just see these incredible success stories from people in all walks of life. And they go, I want that, right? And then when I'm coaching them and they go, yeah, but I can't do it because, right? And then, so then I hear all the excuses, right? Well, I can't do it because I don't have the time. I can't do it because I don't have the money, because I don't have the right connections, because my parents did this to me, because I grew up poor, or whatever it might be. And so whatever happens after the word because is what you will defend to the death. So here's what I want everybody listening to realize is that we humans have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. Right. And now, if you don't believe me, put a Democrat and a Republican in the same room and have them watch a political speech and see what happens. Right. Put a Boston Red Sox fan. Right. You'll appreciate this. Put a Red Sox fan and a Yankees fan in the same room. Watch a Red Sox Yankees game and see what happens. Right. Are they watching the same game? Well, yes and no. They're watching the same set of circumstances on the field. But when one team does something good, one person's happy, one guy's miserable, and vice versa. So do you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We have an infinite capacity to make ourselves right. So when it comes to your head trash, this is what I always say to people, whether I'm doing my keynote speeches, whether I'm doing my own live events or coaching people, I always say, listen, this is one time you don't want to be right.
It reminds me a lot of that primitive part of our brain, the amygdala, which is just trying to protect us, right?
That's
So
right.
it does that just naturally to try and say, don't do that, because you're gonna,
Absolutely.
you're taking a
Yeah.
risk.
So the amygdala that you mentioned, we just call that your lizard brain, right? The lizard brain, the ancient brain. It's millions of years old versus, the front part of your brain, which is only, a couple 100,000 years old, right? So this, the higher thought processes. So the lizard brain's main job is to make sure you don't die today. That's its main job. Make sure it's to keep you not dead.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's done a great job.
Doing a great job, right? What's a great way to keep you not dead? Don't go for something you're afraid of, right? If you're afraid of something, it might kill you, right? Because it could be a saber-toothed tiger. It could be a woolly mammoth. We don't know, right? So it's like, hey, don't go over there. Now, of course, the problem is there's no saber-toothed tigers walking around. There's no woolly mammoths, Probably you're just thinking of doing something like doing a blog post or something, or making a phone call or something. It's not really death-defying, if you get my drift. But the point is, in the brain, the lizard brain doesn't care. It's like, no, I don't care. I'm
Right.
scared, so I'm not doing it. And sadly, that's the very thing that keeps us stuck.
Yeah. You mentioned 3 components in your
Yes.
book. How do those tie in?
You mean the 3 big mistakes?
Yeah, the 3 big mistakes.
Yes. So yeah, when you see the book, and by the way, we're gonna let your listeners know how they can actually get this book for free, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of your head trash about money. We have the book for free. But yeah,
I got
so
mine
this,
right here.
you got it right there. Good man. So the point is that the subtitle is how to avoid the 3 big money mistakes even smart people make. That's the subtitle of the book, Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money. And of course, I know everybody listening to this program is very smart, but nevertheless, you may be making these mistakes even and not knowing it, right?
But you bring up, and you bring up a good point on that, Noah, because again, I could be thinking, well, yeah, I've got money under control, right? I know how to do this, but they could still be mistakes that I'm making.
Well, yeah. And so one of the big mistakes, that I work with clients on all the time is literally not getting rid of your head trash about money, not even realizing it's there. See, the first step of transformation is awareness, right? If you're not aware of something, how can you change it? The answer is you can't. And so that's why, we really believe and espouse and teach on continuous learning, because if you stop learning, you stop earning. Right. And so that's just so important. And that's why, most people are walking around with this head trash, as I call it, about money specifically, but also head trash about other areas of their life that could be keeping you stuck. And so the point is, look how that's affecting you. I'll just give you a quick example. I was speaking at a conference for entrepreneurs in Los Angeles, and there were about 1,000 entrepreneurs in the audience, 6, 7, 8-figure earners, very high level audience. I just finished speaking. I was literally walking off the stage. A man came out of the audience. He rushed up to me. He practically grabbed me and he says, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. You're the coach I've been looking for. And I said, okay. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. And so I said, okay, what's going on? He goes, well, Noah, I'm totally stuck. I'm only making $4 million a year. Now, of course, I had to kind of laugh, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to be stuck with air quotes at $4 million a year? Right?
Yeah.
So I said that to him. I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like much of a problem. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I'm the CEO of a company, and our company grew really fast to 4 million in revenues, like hockey stick growth. But we have been stuck at 4 million in revenues for the last 4 years. So we've been stuck for 4 years at 4 million in revenues. And he says, I've hired everybody out there. I've hired every marketing guru, every dude, and he named all the gurus out there, right? And he said, I've thrown all this money at this problem. And he says, we're still stuck. And I go, and he said to me, as soon as I heard you speak, Noah, about, head trash and your foot on the brake and, inner game, outer game, everything you just said, he goes, I knew something inside me said, you are the coach I've been looking for. So he hired me on the spot. Long story short, I coached him for about a year and a half. In that year, 18 months, his company went from being stuck, plateaued at 4 million in revenues for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in sales.
That's
20
amazing.
million, for literally a 6 times increase in just a little over a year. Now, how did I do that? Well, I waved my magic wand, and no, I didn't wave. I don't have a magic wand. My point is that what we worked on was exactly what I'm talking about right now. We worked on, a big part of it was his head trash, that he didn't realize that he had been unknowingly holding himself back from the success that he desired. So to go back to the the car analogy, it's like if you're driving in your car and you have one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas, how long is it going to take you to reach your destination? A very long time, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what my work does. My methodologies enable people to, number one, understand why their foot's on the brake. Number two, realize that it's there in the first place. And number three, most importantly, get their foot off the brake so they can reach their goals much faster, easier, and with less human effort.
Yeah. In your experience, do you find that there's one thing that people put their foot on the brake most about?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot of sort of common themes. One of the big common themes that we hear a lot is about spirituality and religion, believe it or not. Someone's spiritual and religious beliefs, meaning that, like now I was raised Catholic, right? So in the Catholic Church, right? In the Catholic Church, basically, you're wrong. The end. I mean, that's pretty much it. You're wrong, and did you think something? You're wrong. Oh, okay, well, that wasn't very fun, right? So the point is to have, let's be honest, to have a human desire is wrong, right? Now, I understand that, there's some human desires that aren't so great, but some are perfectly fine. Like, I'd like to live, I'd like to survive, I'd like to thrive, I'd like to live well. And so when, like, in fact, using Adam, that client I was just talking about as an example, one of the beliefs he has is, I don't think I can really be very successful. If I'm really successful, then what if I screw it up? What if I lose it all? And so on and so on. You see, that's just a belief.
Yeah.
So, but the point is, if you believe it, you make it true, right? And that's a great way and reason to go down the road of life with one foot on the brake. But again, to reiterate what I said earlier, if you don't have that conscious awareness, you can't make a change. The first step to any transformation is awareness. And so that's why as a coach, as a mentor, business mentor, one of the big things that I do is just, I act as a mirror to my clients. And I say, did you realize you're thinking that? Did you realize that you're doing this? And they're like, huh? What? I didn't even know I was doing that. So, the analogy we like to give is, when you're inside the bottle, it's awfully hard to see the ingredients on the outside of the bottle, right? So I'm outside the bottle, I go, did you know you're doing this? And they're like, huh? I didn't know that. Okay, well, now we can change it.
I think of my own circumstances at times along those lines of getting to certain income levels that I had expected to get to, and then somehow almost sabotaging certain things. A proposal goes out late, a phone call doesn't get returned, which is uncharacteristic. But I think of, is that like this self-leveling almost against money, where it's like, oh,
yes, that is one example of it. And so right here on page 49 of the Head Trash book, I show you exactly how this works. This is where I show you about inner game and outer game. Okay, so the point is, this is, in any human endeavor, there's always two components, the inner component and the outer component. We just, at successclinic.com, on my live events or with my keynote speeches and my coaching clients, we just say inner game and outer game, right? Because inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but it affects everything that you do. So for example, let's say I'm doing a keynote speech or a live event, I'll say to my audiences, what is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And people go, and I go, exactly. There's no place your beliefs don't affect you, right? Your beliefs affect your health, certainly, right? Your well-being, your peace of mind or lack thereof. Certainly your beliefs affect your money, your wealth, your ability to attract clients, customers, patients, whatever it might be, your relationships. I mean, so literally there's no place that your beliefs don't affect you. But here's the thing, you can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of it, right? So, and also notice that you can be doing really well in one area of your life. Meanwhile, you could be stuck or struggling in another area. For example, maybe, your business is going great, but maybe your health is suffering. Or maybe your relationships are great, but you're not making the money you want, or whatever it might be, right? So any combination. So it's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's all very customized to each person or company or organization or team. And so that's the inner game. But then we also have the outer game. Right? So the outer game is everything you can see directly, right? That's the systems, strategies, habits, all the things that's right in front of your face. So, for entrepreneurs, that's all the marketing we have to do, the lead magnets, the sales funnels, all the customer facing, market facing things. That's what all the gurus are teaching. They're teaching all that stuff, which is, it's all fine and good. But if you don't have the inner game mastered, well, then just like my client Adam, he'd spend tens of thousands of dollars on his marketing stuff. He was just bumping up against himself, against his own inner game. So that's where I came in, and I showed him that again, showed him the outside of the bottle, and he went, holy cow, I didn't even know I was doing that. Boom, 4 million to 20 million in a year, a 6x, 600% increase. Let's be honest, on Wall Street, if you get a 5% return, you're like a superstar.
Now, when you talk about that too, if I remember correctly, it's sort of like the 80-20 rule too, that 80% of this is really the inner game, right? It's our mind that.
Well, I really think it is. And let me give you some famous examples. I'm sure everybody listening to this program knows who Robin Williams is, right? Robin Williams. Now, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He did kill himself. He did commit suicide. And why? Why would he do that, right? Now, unfortunately, I never got the chance to talk to him because I could have saved him. I could have helped him, certainly. But there's an example of someone who had everything that we all want, right? He was rich and famous, right? I mean, there's no arguing that. He was rich and famous, and he not only lost it all, he, took his own life. Why? Because of what I'm talking about right now. Because unfortunately, nobody got to him in time to help him with his inner game. See, that was not an outer game issue. Outer game is all set, right? He's rich and famous. Boom. Chris Farley, Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe, Jim Morrison, River Phoenix. I mean, the list goes on, and it's a sad list, of course, obviously, but you see what I'm saying? This shows up once you start to see this, you start to say, wow, this is affecting everything.
Yeah. It's interesting, as I looked at just your mission as well, is certainly one part of it is make more money. The other part is help more people. And the last is have more fun.
Yes.
And I think that's important too, because clearly, right, you mentioned a bunch of examples there that certainly they made more money. That wasn't about the money. Right. There's a purpose, I would guess, to this as well, of what's this all about? What's
Well, I mean, in this industry, when I say this industry, I mean the personal and business growth industry, what we really see is two kinds of people. The first kind is really driven by money. And hey, man, I can make a lot of money, doing this. Okay, that's great. We all want more money. We all want nice things. And by the way, you can tell this about the person, the guru, by just looking at, you mentioned their social media. Look at their Instagram feed, and they're always posting, hey, look at my new car, and look at my watch. Notice I don't even wear a watch. It's like, and there's nothing wrong with nice things, right? We all want nice things and take care of our family, go on fun vacations. We all want that stuff. But the point is, for those gurus, that's their primary driver. Now, there's another group in this industry, and that's who I like to work with, is their primary driver is impact, is making a difference, is helping people, making the world a better place, as corny as it sounds. But, I've never had the primary driver of money. I've always had the primary driver of impact. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying that, it's so funny because I tried to be like them. I tried to be like, boy, I want that money, and I'm going, man, this sucks. Why am I so unhappy with this? And finally, my wife, my beautiful wife, Babette, she finally said, why are you trying to be like them when that's not you? And I'm going, I don't know. See, medicine bottle, right? She read my bottle from the outside. I'm like, well, that's duh, right? So the point is, one of the things that, part of my mission really is to make it okay that just money is just part of it. It's not the thing, it's a thing. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm certainly not suggesting that I'm better than anybody else. I'm just saying there's not many voices that I hear in this industry that talk about that. It's mostly dominated by money, 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 and stuff. Hey, get more stuff and then you'll be happy. Oh my God, you get to a certain age and you're like, I got enough stuff. Yeah. The stuff doesn't make you happy, guys. And I mean, totally. It just doesn't. What makes people happy is experiences. More importantly, shared experiences, right? And so, like when I go on trips sometimes, I have to go by myself. I don't like it. I like going on trips with my wife. Why? Because that's my best friend, and I get to share, going to the beach or, going to see a concert or, going to Las Vegas shows or whatever it is. And I'm always sitting there going, if I was by myself, I wouldn't be having any fun right now. It's fun because I'm sharing that experience. Yeah. And I think most people really feel that way.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think in terms of our kids we've got 3 that are 8 to 20, 8, 16 and 22, eighth grade, I should say, 13. So 16 and 22. The best time that we have are on trips, on things that we do together, wherever it is. It's because they're shared experiences. That's the enjoyment of that. I completely agree with you.
And by the way, numerous studies, scientific studies have shown that when you have stuff, the perceived value of things actually goes down over time. However, the perceived value of experiences goes up over time. And you just mentioned a great example, with that family vacation you took, with your family, you're going to be talking about that for the rest of your life. And you're going to say, remember when we went to Niagara Falls? Remember when we went to the Grand Canyon? Remember when we went? And you're like, yeah, that was so much fun. And literally the value in your mind goes up. So I'm just sort of the voice now for like, okay, we got enough stuff. Let's talk about shared experiences and really raising the consciousness of the earth.
Yeah, it's so true. My wife she has time hop on her phone. So all of a sudden it'll be like, oh, this was 3 years ago on this date. And it will be, oh, remember we did this trip?
That's right.
I can't remember one time on a time hop that it's, oh, remember we got this car? Remember when we remember when I bought this suit? Boy, that was a great day when I got that suit.
Right. And again, I'll just reiterate, look, we all want nice things. Nothing wrong with things. But you get to a point you're like, is that it? And you're like, no, let's have more shared experiences. And that's what makes life, again, more money, help more people, make more money, and have more fun. That's, as you stated, that is our goal, our stated mission here at Success Clinic.
Yeah. So we only hit on the first mistake. So what's the second mistake?
Well, the second mistake is, ironically, not finding the right mentor. All right, not finding the right mentor. And now that goes back to what I was just saying a moment ago. It's actually very easy to spot the wrong mentor. And that is when they talk about themselves incessantly, right? And I mean, you see this every day on social media. You can't turn on social media without seeing some new dude saying, hey, look at all my cool stuff, and aren't I awesome? And you're like, yeah, you're awesome. Did you help anybody else with, get what they want? Or is it all about your stuff, And it's so insane because, I mean, listen, and I am so guilty of this, and embarrassingly, I paid them over $250,000, the gurus, only to find out they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. They truly suck at teaching, but they're great at promoting themselves. And I bought it, I'm like, and I mean, when I say I bought it, I literally bought it. Here's all my money. And they're like, thanks. And I'm like, well, you gonna help me? No, I'll just take your money. I'm like, what? So, so the point is, for example, when you go to our website, when you go to noahstjohn.com and look at our wall of fame, that's what we call it. We call it our client wall of fame. I'd rather brag about the car that I helped you get that's in your garage rather than the cars that are in my garage. Yeah. Why? Because if I'm only bragging about myself, then who cares, right? I mean, who really cares about if you've made money for yourself? But it's very seductive. That's what I really caution people about. That's why, again, I'm that voice for saying, hey, right there, exactly. What were you showing?
I was showing some of the testimonials from some of your clients in the back.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Now, granted, you've got a who's who in here of pretty heavy hitters that have endorsed this as well, but also people that have actually benefited from what you're doing, which I think is really neat to see that.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's Elizabeth. She went from startup to 7 figures. She had tons of head trash. I mean, she said it. Susan, I helped go from $60,000 in debt. She was about to declare bankruptcy to a 6-figure income in less than a year. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Aubrey was one of our students. She came to my live event and she had been in a wheelchair. Doctors told her she would never walk again, because she was literally working herself to death. You've heard that phrase, working yourself to death. She was actually doing it. So she was working day and night, wasn't growing. After coming to my event, after hiring me as a coach, she doubled her business in less than a year. Here it is right there. There's Aubrey. I mean, it just goes on and on. And like I said, that's what I like to brag about. I'd rather brag about my clients than me.
Yeah. So what about mentoring, right? You talk about that, how important
and my point, again, I'll just reiterate, make sure you find the right mentor. It's not just any mentor. It's easy to find any, there's tons of dudes out there that say, hey man, look how cool I am. Look how much money I've made. Yeah. And then my question was, have you helped anybody else? Right. Because remember, if they haven't, if all they talk about is themselves, then what they have is a personality, right? You can have a winning personality, that's fine. But a personality is not a system. If it's not a system, then what about you and me? right? How are we going to replicate them? We can't, right? So my teaching, my methodology is systematic. It's a system on purpose because I'm so methodical. I'm such a nerd. Nerdiest nerd, remember? So that's the point. I'd rather be the nerdiest nerd because that means I know that I can help anybody. I mean, literally, we have teenagers. You mentioned your teenage. You know, we have teenagers who come to our events. We had one 16-year-old girl. She came to my event and she started up her own online business. Now she sells custom yoga pants. She's making 6 figures a year. 16 years old.
Yeah. Now, Noah, I mean, when you're talking 1997 and you're talking HTML,
yeah,
I know you're nerdy, right? I mean, you don't have to, come on. Right? I mean, you don't have to convince me on that one. I'm like,
I'm just
holy
saying,
smokes,
systems versus
HTML.
Personality. That's what I want people to make sure.
Yeah,
they're looking for systems, not personality.
Yeah. You know, my thought too is I spent a lot of time on the leadership end of things around influence.
Right.
Because to me, that's all it is, right? Is how do we inspire others to go where we want to go? And I think one of the things that is important, especially if I'm thinking of a mentor, is goodwill. Is, are you more interested in taking my money or providing me with something that's going to help me grow? Because if I sense that this is just about, right, you're a personality and you're making money off of me, but not helping me to get where you basically said I can go,
right,
then it doesn't work. Short term, it might work, but it doesn't work long term.
Like I said, I unfortunately, I bought it from them. They seduced me, and you know, to the tune of $250,000 before I finally wised up. It took me a little too long. So again, I want people to learn from my painful mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I did, you know, and just do your homework, do your research, you know, look at the testimonials, look at the case studies, watch the videos, go to our website, you know, just watch there's just dozens and dozens. And it's like, okay, well, if there's this many success stories, there's got to be a system. If there's a system, that means I can do it too. And if you don't think you can do it, guess what? It's your head trash.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Boom.
That's a great point. What's the third mistake that you talk about?
Well, this one could be even worse than the other two combined. And that is gathering too much information without giving yourself permission to succeed. Now, I know that's kind of a mouthful, what I just said. Now, my very first book that was published back in 1999 by the Chicken Soup for the Soul people is called Permission to Succeed. So one of the epiphanies that I had back in 1997, one of the reasons that I started SuccessClinic.com, my company, is that I realized most of us don't need any more how-tos of success. What we actually need is a system to give ourselves permission to succeed. You know, going back to Adam, that story I shared earlier, my client, that was a big, big part of the work we did. Helping him go from 4 million to 20 million in less than a year was actually a big part of that, was helping him get his foot off the brakes. So the point is, we don't live in the information age. We live in the information overload age. All right. We passed the information age 20 miles back, right? There's over 1 billion blogs on the internet right now. I mean, you know, just, you could watch cat videos for the next 10,000 lifetimes and still never be done. So the point is, there are so many, we live in a world not only of information overload, but of infinite distractions, you know, and unfortunately at our fingertips, every minute of every day, we have these, what I call the tools of infinite distraction, our phone, right? So, and of course, remember that the makers of all of these social media platforms and apps, their job is to keep you addicted. That's their job. Their job is to keep you addicted as a consumer so that they can show you more ads, so that they make more money. See, when it's a free platform, guess what the product is? You and me, right? We're the product, right? We are being sold everywhere. So the point of what I'm getting at is just one of the big things that we work with at our coaching clients and our live events is to just cut through the clutter, having people do less and make a lot more, right? Because there's so many things you could do, but it's kind of like a Jurassic Park, right? You know, should you do it? Right? It's not, they didn't ask, could we do it? They asked, should we do it? It's like, should I be doing that? Or should I be doing that? You know, and just as a quick example, you know, as we talked about earlier, you know, I've been blessed to write 15 books that are now published in 18 languages. And I've also helped many people get their first book published. A big, big reason that I've been able to do that is just to help people to eliminate distractions. Because as I stated, we live in a world of infinite distractions. So just being able to unplug, you know, even just for a few minutes a day, or maybe an hour or so, or whatever, you know, so that you can focus, get something done, is going to make enormous differences for you. Because what most people do is they're trying to build a bridge from where they are to where they want to be. But instead of building one bridge to get there, they've got 20 half-built bridges. And when you have a half-built bridge, what do? You get halfway and you go, it's flat, right? Not good. So we want to just have one bridge, but it's so painful. Because it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to get that information overload. So at our live events with our clients, our coaching clients, we just help people to cut through the clutter, do less and have more.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. You're right that we do get just overloaded with how many places can I go to research what I'm going to do, right?
Right.
Completely.
Right. So there's a phrase that we love to say, with our clients at our events, which is, there's no lack of information. There's a definite lack of implementation, and a lack of implementation leads to a lack of transformation. Right. So we don't want information anymore. Nobody wants more information. Oh, no. Can I please have more information? Holy crap. I'm drowning in information. Right.
Yeah.
And so the point is, we don't want more information. What we need is implementation. But that goes back to the fear that we were talking about earlier, right? Oh my gosh, what if I do it and it doesn't work? Head trash, right? So you see how this all ties together?
Oh yeah, circular.
Right? Exactly. And so that lack of implementation leads to a lack of transformation. You can't have transformation from information. If it did, then we'd all be multi-billionaires, right? Because we all have infinite information at our fingertips. So clearly that's not the issue.
Right. It was that easy. As we're sort of wrapping things up, I'm thinking, you mentioned a lot about affirmations. If I'm that person that's saying, yeah, this sounds good, but again, I've tried so many different things and it just doesn't work. How do you help somebody in that regard? And I know I follow you on Instagram and I see many of the affirmations you put out there, and I think they're great. I think they would be so valuable for listeners to hear. What's a process that you can do to be able to change the question?
Yes, absolutely. And just for everyone listening and watching, just so you know, we're using a new word here. It's affirmations, not affirmations. All right, affirmations. This is one of the power habits of unconsciously successful people that I teach. This is my book from Hay House, by the way, called Affirmations. And you can learn more at affirmations.com, AFFORMATIONS, Affirmations. So as we all know it, and I'm sure everybody listening and watching this program knows, an affirmation is a statement of something you want to be true, right? This is what the gurus have been teaching us for decades, right? So this is one of the things we like to do at our live events or my keynote speeches, whether I'm talking to, colleges, universities, or healthcare, or chiropractors, dentists, sports teams, or whatever it is. I love to have my audiences stand up and say, okay, we're going to say an affirmation, right? Everybody say, I am rich. And everybody goes, I am rich. And you know what happens next? That's exactly what you're doing. Everybody starts laughing. Yeah. And I go, well, what are you laughing at? They say, well, I'm not rich. And I go, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. See, now that's the problem, right? There's nothing wrong with the statement. We don't believe the statement.
I am
so back
skinny.
in Right. Well, and the point is, you say the positive thing and your brain goes, yeah, right. Right. That literally, in my books and my programs, I call it the yeah, right response of your brain, because the brain goes, yeah, right. Yeah. So back in 1997, I had this epiphany, and I was in the shower one morning, and in my books, I call it the shower that changed everything, right? Because, we've all had those aha moments in the shower, right? Well, on this particular shower, I was thinking about, this very point, saying, how come I've been doing these affirmations, doing everything the books told me to do? Remember, I read every book, and they all said the same thing. Just say the affirmations, put in the positive, use that. I wrote it down, put it sticky notes all over. Nothing, right? I was saying, I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. No, I'm not. I'm unhappy, I'm broke, I'm miserable, right? So I'm like, this is not working. So I was so frustrated. I said, what aren't they telling us? They've got to be leaving something out. There's got to be something so crucial that they're not telling us, and something they left out. What is it? I was literally just, beside myself. So I said, all right, so what are we talking about? We're talking about beliefs. What's a belief? A belief is just a thought. Well, what's thought? And I realized that human thought is the process of asking and searching for answers to questions, not statements, but questions. So I said, well, wait a second. If the human mind is automatically searching for answers to questions, why are we going around making statements we don't believe? Why don't we just cut out the middleman? And so I said, well, what would that look like? So you get this statement or affirmation, the old way, I am rich. And your brain goes, yeah, right. So then I said, well, what would the question be? Why am I so rich? Why am I so rich? Now, when you ask that question, what immediately starts happening in your brain? You start to search for the answer, right? So we're talking about what I teach at my events and what I work with coaching clients on is the law of sowing and reaping. As you sow, so shall you reap. Now, of course, it's nothing new. It's been taught for centuries. But what are we sowing? We're sowing seeds of thought. And yet, what are most people doing? Sowing lousy thought seeds. Why am I so stupid? Why am I so fat? Why can't I lose weight? Why isn't my business growing? Why is there more month left at the end of the money? Right? And when you ask lousy questions, what do you get?
Right.
Lousy answers, right? And that creates a lousy life. So then I said, well, why don't we just flip the whole thing on its head? Instead of asking lousy questions that lead to lousy answers that lead to lousy life, why don't we flip it on its head, start asking empowering questions that lead to phenomenal answers and create a wonderful life? And as I was standing there in the shower, April 1997, I said, holy cow, I think I just invented something. And so I gave it a name. The name I gave was Affirmations, Affformation. Again, you can go to affformations.com and learn more about my Affirmations method. So literally since that time, we've helped people to overcome addiction, to cure PTSD, to double, triple their income, to start their business, grow their business, find love. We've helped kids, get better grades, feel more self-esteem. So it's just incredible because when you look at, going back to what I said, at the beginning of this program, when I was talking about beliefs and head trash, this is one of the things that's actually causing it. And the beautiful thing is using my Affirmations now, you can change your questions, literally change your questions, change your habits, change your actions, and thereby change your life.
Yeah. I think that is so powerful. I don't need to tell you, right? 1997, how powerful it is for you. It is. Our brain looks for the evidence to back up the question that we ask.
Right.
And I think if more people recognized what you're talking about, they would be in such a better place. That we
Absolutely.
do. We get what we search out in some regards. And I spend a lot of my time, again, not in this space like this, but certainly I might go into an organization, and if it's around conflict and they don't like the person they work with, I will say that if you're asking yourself, why don't you get along with that person? It's no different than what you're talking about. I will think of all the reasons why I can't get along with this person.
That's right.
Yeah. Changes everything.
Indeed.
So you have an event coming up as well, right? Do you want to mention that?
Absolutely. It's called Freedom Lifestyle Experience, and it's a 2-day transformational intensive where in 2 life-changing days, I literally teach you how to master your inner game on day 1 and your outer game on day 2 so that you can literally have more time, more energy, better relationships, and more money while working less. So this is really what it's kind of like, the dream, the entrepreneur's dream, which is to be able to not work all the time and yet have that financial freedom and the time freedom so that they can live the life that they want. And so that's why we call it Freedom Lifestyle Experience, because we want to give people that experience of living a freedom lifestyle. So that is, right. You can get your tickets at freedomlifex.com, Freedom Life, and then the letter X, freedomlifex.com. And, because you're listening to this program right now, you can actually bring a friend for free as we want to give a special gift to everybody listening to this program. So freedomlifex.com and get your tickets. You can bring a friend for free.
Awesome. Noah, thank you so much for this. This has been, I've loved our conversation. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's an affinity there just from a main connection, but I think our backgrounds are similar growing up. You have provided so much value to so many people. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
The conversation with Noah is certainly such a valuable one in the environment that we're in right now. The questions that we ask ourselves will be so important in terms of what the outcomes will be from that. And that if we expect the worst, we won't be disappointed. I mean, we will be disappointed, but really, we won't be disappointed. We probably will get exactly what we're expecting. So much of this is around our ability to think differently, and I hope you'll take an opportunity to do that. If you know somebody you think might benefit from this episode, I'd ask you to forward it on to them. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd ask you to please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. And it would mean the world to me if you would leave a rating or a comment, because that's how this message continues to get out there. And we need messages around helping individuals understand that we are all leaders through our actions. And until our next episode, I'm going to ask you 2 things. One is that you lead like no other. And secondly, that you're able to rise above your best. Peace.